All right. Well, we'll go ahead and we'll kick this thing off and get started. First and foremost, thank you all so much for being here this evening. We're a little bit spread out across the country. Most of you know today I'm in Washington, D.C. Charlie's there in Missouri, and then we'll introduce you to a couple of other folks. But first and foremost, thank you for joining us. We're excited to kind of share some information and educate a little bit as well. There's at any point if you have questions, throw those in that Q&A question box. We're going to get to as many of the questions as we can. There'll be a Q&A session at the end. So if we don't cover something that you have a question about, feel free to throw that in there. So looking at the agenda for today, we're going to do some welcome introductions. We're going to cover selling a drone, renewals, Part 108, and the latest from Washington, D.C. So I first and foremost like to thank you and introduce our team here at AgriSpray. Most of you know Charlie and Stephanie and myself, but we also have two college interns joining us. They started over the summer. They are crazy enough to stay on with us. We're working on training them up, so you're probably going to have some contact with both of them. So Addie and Carly, say hi to the lovely folks. And so a lot of you will probably meet them. Carly is Ag Communications at Ohio State University, and Addison is political science pre-law. So a good mix of marketing and law there. And so we're thrilled to have them. And of course, Stephanie, our first line of defense on the phones, and then Charlie and I, who just are glorified janitors. We just kind of clean up the rest. So thank you so much to the team and everybody for a great season. And we're gonna cover some cool stuff. So I'm gonna let Charlie take over on this one. He's beyond me in registration. So Charlie, go ahead and kick us off there with how to sell a drone.
We thought about what topics, it's the end of the season, what we're seeing from customers, uh, and it kind of goes hand in hand with as new models come out and used drones are being sold, or you're buying a drone from somebody who operated a drone for this season, that we talk about what you need to do to sell a drone, as far as FAA side of the house and transferring that drone registration to the new owner. Uh, it's really simple. Uh, there's just two forms involved. They're almost the same numbers, and everybody that's dealt with me or Alex or Stephanie, we all love to throw numbers at you. Uh, but it's Form 8050-2. Uh, and I laugh at that because the three forms that have anything to do with registration is FAA Form 8050-1, FAA Form 8050-2, and FAA Form 8050-3. Uh, and we all, everybody gets confused with the 44807, a 137, an 8710-3, an 8050 form. So we just thought, let's talk about what it takes to sell a drone. And really to do that, we can look at what it takes to register a drone, because all this paperwork goes hand in hand. And when I say 8050-2, that's 8050-2. If you just Google FAA 8050-2, it'll get you to that downloadable form. The FAA website will be the latest form, but the FAA will accept any form that is an 8050-2 form. They update it every so often. But the 8050-2 form is filled out by the seller, transferring that registration from the current owner to who is purchasing it. The 8050-1 form is how the new owner registers it to themselves. So from a seller standpoint, when you're selling a drone, the only thing that needs to go with it is the 8050-2 form. The FAA calls that a bill of sale. It does constitute as a bill of sale. It has all the all the parts of a bill of sale, and that's what their term is for it. So you can use it as a bill of sale as well, because it does list the price, the sales date, who the owner is. The key there for the seller is that it needs to be in the registered owner's name, and the name and the title of the person signing it need to be as it was when it was registered. Uh, Seems simple enough. Everybody has a registration card with a registered drone. That's the Form 8050-3 form, which is looks like a postcard that the FAA sends. Uh, Looks a lot like this. Upside down, no, that's right side up. So it looks like a postcard. The key to that form is what's written on the back. Uh, and this is when you sell a drone, you fill out the 8050-2 form, and then you sign the back of the 8050-3 and mail that half back to the FAA reporting that you sold it. So even if the new owner never finishes the registration, it at least shows the FAA that you sold it and gets it off of the registration for the seller. Uh, so it's a way to terminate the registration for yourself. The There's 5 different stipulations on the back of that card. You sell it to a foreign entity, the aircraft scrapped or destroyed, the death of the registered owner, uh, that you sold it, or there's 30 days of elapsed since the citizenship is lost from the owner. Those are the things that make that registration no longer in the person who it was registered to. So keys there is just to remember that when you sign the 8050-2 and the 8050-3 form, that you do it with the title and the name of the person who registered it, and name of the person that registered it is typically a company name or an individual name, depending on how you had it registered. So things to think about on that. $5 fee. Uh, at least on the 8050-2 form, they write on the instructions that it's $5. I don't know why they won't do that on the other form, but to register a drone at any level is $5. Uh, so just some interesting things there. Uh, we wrote on there liability considerations when selling a used drone. I think the biggest thing there is just filling out the 8050-3, which releases that drone from you, even if the purchaser never finishes the paperwork. So that at least gets it, if they run out and do something with it, it's not under your name anymore. It's at least been notified that it's sold. If you look on the registry search site, you will see sale pending or sale reported. That's usually when somebody's filled out the 8050-3, and the new owner has yet to fill out the paperwork. So, but it releases that liability off of you because it's not registered to you anymore, because that's one of the things they'll look at if something would happen with that drone is how it's registered. So just a quick tidbit on selling a drone. The FAA is not concerned about what the price is on the bill of sale. Uh, that's for you to have that record on why it's there. Uh, we don't see any issues there. Same time frame. The transfer paperwork, the 8050-2 and 8050-1 signed together constitutes a temporary registration. So from the moment that's signed on by both parties, it's a temporary registration, good for 12 months uh, for the new owner as a temporary registration. So if there's errors in the forms and things go back and forth, that that piece of paper is a temporary registration for the 12-month period. So that's a benefit of a registered drone versus a previously unregistered drone in registration. Uh, uh, the question came up: do the 8050-1 new registration forms still need to be notarized? The notary is only uh, needed on a previously unregistered aircraft. So if you're a new in the box drone or a used drone that was never registered that you're registering for the first time, we'll need an affidavit of ownership, which is creating in the FAA's file how the drone came into existence, and that has to be notarized. So the only time that you need to do that is when it's a previously unregistered aircraft. There was one thought that fleeted through my mind along with that, and now I don't remember it. Oh, if you had to create an LLC file with your first drone, once you build that file with the FAA, you don't have to do it the second time. So if you're registering a second drone, uh, that LLC statement is not required if it's an LLC. If an individual or a regular company, corporation, or partnership, you don't have that piece of paper, but you only need to do that on your original first drone. So, uh, good question, though. That's what I've got about selling a drone or buying a drone, buying a
Awesome.
used drone.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think that's a good general overview. Um, for those of you that are selling drones, those are some good considerations to keep in mind. And if you have questions, give us a call. We're happy to help and talk you through the process. Um, it seems a lot more intimidating than it actually is. So if you need help, reach out to one of us. We'll be happy to help you.
And I don't see a difference in value whether it was registered drone or not. Uh, the nice thing about having a previously registered drone, if you're needing that to spray with it tomorrow as soon as the paperwork's signed, it's temporary registration. Whereas if it's previously unregistered, you've got the 45 days or so to wait for the registration to come back. Uh, but just, if you're buying a registered drone, you can go to the FAA's registry site and search the serial number or search the previous owner's name to see if it was registered, uh, by serial number or by N number, so you can verify it. And that site will tell you that it'll say what type of aircraft it is. It'll say the owner's name and address. If it says that it's not suitable for operation or it's pending or it's in cancellation notice, that's not a completed registration. Even if it says reserve, that's not a completed registration. So uh, you kind of want to verify that N number is a good N number before you start transferring it, so that just in case the last guy didn't finish it and you don't have to have a paperwork shuffle to get it done. But like Alex said, give us a call. We can help you get through it.
Absolutely. In one moment, let me get back on track here. Okay. All right, looks good. So, as we keep on going through here, and we're going to talk a little bit about renewals, and I am going to post a whole list of links here, and this will be stuff that um, we will use um, for the rest of the presentation. So, if you hear us reference one of these links, this is kind of what we're talking about. So, spoiler alert on some of those things. So, um, on on this one, the I'll talk about 44807 renewals, and then we can kind of go over a couple of other things. So, some good news. A lot of times we talk about the timeline with the whole regulatory process, and the really good news is in the past couple weeks we're seeing exemption approvals coming through in as early as 35 days. That's not everybody, but a good group recently has been coming in about 35 days. And those are individuals that provided all the correct information exactly at the same time. And we posted those to the docket. So that's some great news. I think that's hopefully a positive um, foreshadowing as to how we're going to keep on going with this. The bad news is the registration process is still a month plus, and Charlie will talk about that. But um, that's some good news is that we're seeing a little bit of a speed up. Now, there's some other correlative factors in that, like time of year and workload and current administration and all of those things. But we're seeing lots of good movement on those. But I still want you to keep in mind, check on the back page of that 44807 exemption. It's going to have your expiration date. Some of you have never seen that date before, but on that last page of your 44807 exemption, passing conditions and limitations, you're going to see that expiration date. The FAA wants you to renew or file for an extension, as we call it, within 120 days of that expiration date. If it is less than that 120 days, then we have to submit a new petition, new docket number, all that kind of good stuff. But we are seeing ignore the timeline with the 35 days. You still need to be getting those renewals in 120 days before the expiration of that. And that's just kind of the game that we have to play. some of you have noticed that your expiration date does not correlate with when you got through the whole process. But that date is the law that they go off of. And we're going to kind of play that game with the FAA on that one. So that's renewals, timelines, and deadlines. Thing to remember: 120 days. If you need that renewal, we need you to get with us, call our office, or go on the website, and go through all that. Justin, I see your question.
And
I'm going to cover that. We're going to cover that here in just a second under our Part 108
the
section. Charlie, go ahead.
something something to add, your exemption's only good even if it's a full exemption for 24 months. And 4 months before it expires, you have to start working on renewals. So, everybody got at best a 24-month exemption. Like Alex said, some people got less time than that, depending on if they had an exemption and then applied for an amendment. That amendment doesn't always give you 24 full months. They sometimes will keep your same uh, renewal date. So, that's something you need to mark on the calendar when you get your exemption. As Alex said, it's the last page of your exemption, which is the page before the COA starts. So it's not the last page in your exemption packet. It's the last page of the exemption after the last condition limitation, and it tells you how to renew and when to renew.
Very true. And we're happy to help you through that process. But that's something to kind of be aware of. And something else that I want to add to that while we're talking about exemptions, something that I don't think is educated enough, besides knowing your conditions and limitations, is a knowledge of your manuals. So if you get an exemption from us, in that, congratulations email with the instructions for your next step, you have links to 2 manuals. Those manuals coincide with your exemption, and are supposed to be tailored to your operation. If you receive an audit from the FAA, they're going to want to look at your manuals, and they're going to ask you questions about those manuals. So that's something. And if you got an exemption through us and you can't find your manuals, or you don't think that you got them, give us a call, give us an email. We'll get you your manuals the right way. But that is something that I don't think enough people are taking seriously, are those 2 manuals that go with your exemption. So, and this is not a here's how to turn on the drone, here's how to turn off the drone manual. This is a procedures and aircrew management situation that goes through a whole bunch of scenarios and situations that you need to know how you're going to handle in those moments. Another thing that I think people need to start being more cognizant of are maintenance records. And maintenance is a big part, or is a part, I should say, of those manuals. One of the inspectors with the FAA, and those who have met this individual and know this individual, much love to Juan. But one of the big things that he focuses on is maintenance. And we're starting to see more and more tightening up on the requirement of not only maintenance logs, but maintenance procedures. And some of it, like preaching to the choir, we know that these are not mandated aircraft, and we don't track the bolts all the way to the manufacturer. But that's where that individual comes from, and they want to get the industry a little bit closer on the maintenance side of things. So, Charlie, do you want to add something to the maintenance?
Logged maintenance is what they're looking for. The last 2 versions of the exemption, condition limitation number 20 talks about what you have done for maintenance training for yourself as the owner operator, how you were trained to do maintenance. He's there, they, right now there's only really 2 people out doing audits. They're asking for what you did to be trained in doing aircraft maintenance. And it can be watching videos. It can be, read Part 43, for which is maintenance guidelines, maintenance general practices. he's not looking that you have an airframe and power plant license. He's looking that you've had some type of training if you're performing maintenance on your own aircraft. Uh, and like Alex said, they read your manual. They read the manual. They read your exemption. They know the FARs. They read the manufacturer's manuals. And if they're going to come do an audit, that's what they're looking for. So, be prepared for that.
And
And
Greg,
yes, it can be a spreadsheet, computer based drone logbook. Uh, we have an ops center. There's two or three different other drone logbooks that are out there that have maintenance and training and currency all wrapped up into one. It's great to have a tool like that that will track it for you. 24 months seems like a long time, but it comes pretty quick, especially when you need to do it 4 months ahead of time for renewal. It's great to have some electronic means to remind you to uh, to do that. Same with what we're going to talk about with pilot recurrent, or just the general fact of battery maintenance or something like that. Putting it down on a spreadsheet or putting it somewhere where you can track it in a calendar that it'll remind you becomes a great tool. And for those who have been audited, binders and spreadsheets, they do like it gives them something to read and it gives them something to look at where you're putting it all together and it shows that you've read it.
and I'll piggyback on that. Whatever you put in front of them, they will read. And they will ask questions. It doesn't matter if you put the Declaration of Independence in front of them, they will read it and they will ask you questions. So I guess to piggyback on Charlie's comment for you, Greg, for your question, uh, can it be on the spreadsheet or on computer? Does it have to be in the binder with the drone? It needs to be accessible. So electronic means are appropriate for that one. And then I think that's a great transition into remote pilot certificate recurrency, um, which I think I butchered the spelling of that word, but let's just kind of ignore that. So, actually, hang on. We're the Chris has got a question. So, for those of us that are dealers and do repair work on customer drones, are we required to keep the records for that drone up to date, or does that fall on the customer's responsibility? I'll give my answer and then Charlie can give the better answer. Um, the maintenance logs and the records live with the aircraft. So if you are performing the work on that aircraft, it needs to be logged. And it also needs to follow the functional test flight requirements, which if you read your exemption is a 500-foot distance and carries a bunch of other stuff. But to answer your question, Chris, that the customer is required to have those maintenance logs with the aircraft. Charlie?
And there really is no template for that. If you just did an invoice of the work performed with uh, a description of what you did and what parts were changed, and give that to the customer and say, here's a record of what we did, and the customer could keep that in the binder or scan it and keep it in an electronic file and say, here's what maintenance was done on my drone if ever was asked. And it should be the same thing if you as an operator are changing props or you changed out an aerial electronics board or whatever you did it, if you want to get down into how they do it on the aircraft side, it's serial number of part off and serial number of part on and how many hours were on the aircraft at the time and who performed the action. I guarantee you that the two guys that show up for the audit would love to see it that way, but they would be happy with an invoice that said this is the work done and who performed it, whether you did it or uh, you as a dealer did it. That way, it at least has some record. If they ever came to you and said, "What drones have you worked on as a dealer?" You would have those invoices to say, "This is what I've done and what was accomplished in those visits."
Yeah, good question. Good question. All right, let's move on to remote pilot certificate recurrency. Um, your remote pilot certificate, Charlie, how long is your remote pilot certificate valid for?
Ever, as long as you live at that address and you're able to meet the requirements of it. So the piece of plastic's good forever
Yeah,
until revoked, suspended, or uh, given up. I guess would be probably their answer.
yep. So the other
Uh,
Yeah, go ahead, Charlie.
Change of address. Well, since we're going to talk, since I said change of address, you got to remember if you change your address, you got to tell the FAA within 30 days. Uh, but that's I guess that's part of remote pilot recurrent. Uh, but then what's it take to be? What's it? I guess you're throwing questions out, so I'll throw the question back to Alex. Then, what's it take to make sure that that pilot's license is valid if it's good forever?
Yeah. So you have to maintain currency on those remote pilot certificates. And so you need uh, to be recurrent. I gave you a link in the comments there. And to there you can do it. Um, and Charlie, how often do we need to do our recurrency training?
That's a trick question. Uh, am I going to fly today? The FAA puts that in there that within the preceding 24 months, you either have needed to pass the test, completed the the test and the requirements for the certificate, or have a recurrent training. So when you go, if you're going to go fly tomorrow, within the past 24 months, you either need to have recurrent training or have taken the test for the 107. Uh, and I say it like that because it it that makes it sound like if you're doing this every day, you need to do it every 2 years. You can not fly for 2 or 3 years, but if you're going to fly tomorrow within the past 24 months, you need to have one of those two things in the past 24 months. So it's a little tricky. It's using the FAA type wording, but that's the way it's worded. Within the past 24 months, you must have completed the recurrent training. We see that at the application for exemption. They're looking for that at application for exemption. They're looking for that at the application for the 137, and they're verifying that on their audits. Uh, or anytime an accident or anytime there's any FAA inquiries, that's what they're looking for.
Yep. And something to remember, if you are just now going through that 44807 137 process, when you submit that 8710-3 form, um, preemptively give them your recurrency because you can put your name and your remote pilot certificate number down. They're going to come back and say, hey, show us proof of recurrency. And so preemptively go ahead and give them that. We've had a couple people that were delayed a few days because they I had to answer that question that yes, they were current. And the other thing that I want to point out on your remote pilot certificate, um, something audit wise, I want everyone that's sitting here, if you have uh, as you're sitting in your recliner, yes, I'm talking to you, Andrew Tucker. I'm sure you're sitting in your recliner. Uh, Grab your Part 107, your remote pilot certificate, flip that baby around on the back, and sign the bottom of it. One of the things that we noticed is that if you do not sign the back of that, it's not valid. And well, we didn't just notice this, but what we did notice is a lot of people have not.
Always been written there.
Yes, you need to sign that because if you get an audit from our friends at the FAA, they're going to turn it around, and if it's not signed, they're going to say this is not valid until you sign it. So save yourself the trouble and sign the back of this card. And I hope that a lot of you are reaching your pockets right now to do that.
Ryan, there's two different recurrents. One's for 61 pilot, which is a certificated aircraft, helicopter, glider, fixed wing recurrent. So if you're, kind of the same way you did your 107 was different as a 61 pilot as well. But yes, if you go to the FA's Fast Team website, there's a recurrent for a 61 pilot and there's a recurrent for a non-61 pilot.
Yes, yes, very good.
And uh, Jim said his 137 got bounced back for that. Typically, they can see it. So if you have a current one, a current recurrent in the FA's system, they can see it. We sometimes they will request it, even if you already have one, a month or so back. But it's not surprising that they're asking for it.
Yeah.
They say that they're doing this due to non-compliance. This is why they're asking for it. multiple different times. Uh, and when we can get to where they always have it and it's always there, then they'll probably quit asking for it. But for now, they're going to ask for it quite often. Renewals, uh, everything we see the same things pop up.
Yep. So that's pretty much all I got on renewals, I think. Trick question, Charlie. I know you know the answer, but I'm saying it so everybody can hear it. Uh, when does my 137 agricultural aerial operator certificate expire?
Never.
Never. So we're only going.
Same answer, I guess, upon surrendering, revoke, uh, or you don't meet the qualifications of it anymore.
Yep.
Or when 108 goes into effect, we don't know what's going to happen then.
Right. Right. Good segue on that one. So, with that, let's talk about 108. The reason a lot of you have joined us tonight, and I've got some bad news for you, because it's not as deep as you probably think that it is. And I love how Charlie phrases this. So, Charlie, tell me, as I'm an agricultural aerial applicator, what's 108 going to do for me in changing?
Much. Uh, the Let's just talk about what 108 is. It's a notice of proposed rulemaking. If you've been in the drone industry since 2016, they've been talking about 108. 2016 is when 107 got published, and everybody said, "Well, this doesn't encompass everything. What are we going to do?" Oh, we'll get you 108. 108's been in draft form for a long time. What the 3,000 pages we saw 2 years ago at the commercial UAV conference or UAS UAV conference as a draft, it's almost exactly as it was written 2 years ago that got published this year, and it got done due to a presidential mandate that it had to be done by a certain date, which they missed. Uh, TSA and CBP got to look at it last in the last 30 or 45 days and got to make comments on it that nobody even got to respond to before it went out in print. Uh, if you've read it, uh, they put out a pretty scary document that was about 735 pages long, which was about 635 pages of opinion. 108 itself is 100 pages. It's about 97 pages long, I think. So if you download the whole document and take out everything except the 108, so as it's written, it's only about 100 pages, so it's a pretty easy read. The other 635 pages are uh, the opinions of the people who wrote it to describe each section of it. 108 is going to be for 108 was written by and written for companies like Wing, Amazon, Walmart, the delivery drones, and I'm speaking, this is my opinion, and opinions of many others that I've heard, that the beyond line of sight delivery drones or the beyond line of sight inspection program people are the ones that really put the effort into 108 and got it written especially for what they do. Uh, ag is in there, which I applaud them for putting ag in there because we were worried that ag wasn't going to be in there. But is it really going to be big changes for ag? No, sorry. Uh, we all hoped and prayed that when 108 came out, it was going to be like 107, and there's going to be a rule written, and we can just go follow the rule, and everybody's going to leave us alone. Guess what? It's not going to be that way. You read the proposed, and this is a proposal. It's going to come back for a rewrite. I would assume 18 to 24 months before we see even another notice of proposed rulemaking uh, of the changes to this. Uh, so far, the comments have been very low volume. There should be 10,000 comments, and there's not 500 yet, I don't think. Uh, so, but I mean, even as I sit here and describe it to you, I can think of about three comments that I've put on there. Uh, there's not a lot to comment on about what's here. There's a lot to comment about what should be here. Uh, but the comments are going to be what change it. So it's probably going to go into effect the way it is. there's two things in 108 as it's written right now that'll apply to ag. One's going to be a permit operator, and the other is going to be a certificated operator. A certificated operator will be like the old days where the FAA will come inspect you and issue you a 108 operating certificate to do ag. We think that will incorporate a 137 certificate, but it's not really written. It'll allow you to do 137 work, but we don't know that it'll have a certificate involved with it. Or a permit operator, which is pretty closely resembling what an exemption looks like. And a permit operator is depending on what population density you fly over. And that's a new term for us as an industry. Uh, and ag's going to be in that sparsely populated area. So you'll most likely, unless you're operating more than 10 drones and that you're out working in sparsely populated areas, be a permit operator under 108, which means you'll apply for the permit and every 2 years you'll renew the permit. Sounds a whole lot like an exemption. Uh, you'll have to give them who the chief supervisor is, what your drone registration is. Uh, the one thing you won't have to give them is what your pilot's license is because 108 does not require a pilot's license. Interesting. Uh, it's one less thing you have to do, but it's also a good area of study for a lot of people to understand airspace and weather and how the FAA works with regulations. So it's interesting that 108 does not list a pilot license requirement. So that's probably a positive thing. 108 gives the right of way to a drone, which most people in the industry, ag industry with the ag aircraft are upset about, or Airline Pilots Association's upset about it because now manned airplanes have to give way to the drone, uh, which seems a little odd, but uh, it's the way it's written, and it's really written for the beyond line of sight box drone that's traveling, 10 miles from its location or 5 miles from its location somewhere else, and it's really running autonomously where it has a harder time seeing manned aircraft, so they're letting them have the right of way over everybody else. So uh, interesting. Uh, but how's this going to play? It's still an in-number drone. We would love to see, and my big ride on this one is we would love to see these drones get registered under Drone Zone. Uh, Drone Zone registration is 5 minutes. It's still a trackable registration. It still gives the FAA their $5. It's only good for 3 years, but the life expectancy of a drone doing ag is probably not 7 years as the in-numbered registration is. And it's easier thing to transfer as you add a drone. It would relieve the workforce in Oklahoma City. It would open up the in numbers back to aircraft instead of, the 10,000 in numbered drones that are out there now taking up all that. It's, the manpower alone that it takes to register these drones. It's a 45 to 60-day process where you can do it on Drone Zone in 5 minutes. The running joke is if you've registered your drone and it was easy, you did it wrong. Which is frustrating, and 108 doesn't help that. So, the big thing that we've written is if you're going to do it, if you're going to leave it this way, let at least ag. Uh, and I don't see any reason why anything in 108 has to be done as an in number. I'm sure the FAA sees some piece of this, but even they can take the same certificate action on a F numbered registered drone through Drone Zone as they can through an in numbered drone. So we're not sure why, other than it's always been that if it's over 55 pounds, it has to be registered with an N number, but frustrating from that aspect. Uh, the certificate holder, that's going to be like the old days where it's just issued and it's good for as long as you hold the certificate, but you're up to FAA inspection from then on, so they can come whenever they want and re-inspect you. Anytime you get aircraft, we assume that it'll be like the old days where they'll come and re-inspect you. We don't know for sure. We do know through the beyond line of sight people, the people who have current waivers for beyond line of sight, when 108 gets published, it will rescind all the current 108 waivers. So we are under the assumption that it might do that for the exemptions. We don't know that yet. If you just got an exemption that's good for 2 years and 108 gets published next week, it may or may not, you may or may not have a valid exemption. We'll have to wait and see. And, they tell us kind of what the general guidelines are, but they don't tell us how it's going to be done, whether it's just one page FAA form that's going to fill us out or how it is. And then there's going to be some learning curve on how long it takes us to get up to speed on how quick a certificate can be issued. It's all, in the future and things to see. It's great that it's written down. The exemption process really isn't written down and it's a big unknown. But it would be nice to know timelines on completion of all these things once it does go into effect. So a little scary from that aspect. Uh, the we're gaining a little bit right now. Our exemptions say that we're only good to 200 feet. All of 108 says we're good to 400 feet. Uh, the weight restrictions going way up to 1,300 pounds, a little over 1,300 pounds. I think maybe it's 1,400. Uh, so there's some positives there. We don't really know how that, we're running off a list of approved drones right now. There's going to have to be some certification on the drones to allow us to do this. There's also going to be manufacturer requirements on uh, the communication of the drone as far as how it communicates with the controller or how it communicates its remote ID or its position. To my understanding, as of last month, there wasn't a drone in the system yet that meets that requirement. So there's going to have to be changes to equipment uh, if it goes as it's stated right now. They really haven't changed anything with ADS-B or remote ID, uh, but they're putting it out in a system where the aircraft can only see either transponder equipment or ADS-B equipment. So not big changes there so that the airplanes can see us. Uh, just really not big changes unless you're looking at flying over people or doing beyond line of sight because the majority of that rule is written for that operator. The there's some cybersecurity pieces that are new in it. It's a guy setting up an ag business doesn't have a lot of cybersecurity, but there's going to have to be something written in your manual about what you're going to do to keep your data secure. And I think that comes back down to Chinese drones and who's got the data and everything else. But they just wrote it as a cybersecurity thing to make sure that your data is in check. I don't think there's the reporting that's in it. There's if you really break down what's in your exemption, what is in 108 for ag is already written in your exemption. So it's really just they've published kind of what's in your exemption, but there's still a process that you're going to have to apply every 2 years to get it. So not a whole lot's changing there. So I hate to be that bearer of bad news. Uh, but if there's things that you would like to see that the FAA can do, this is the time to write your comment. Uh, don't chat GPT it. Don't go online and take what the National Ag Aircraft Association has put out as a template and type that in there because the FAA sees the same things twice. They just see that as one comment. Uh, he's put that in the link uh, to get to the comment period or the comment area. But go in there and type your comments. And if you don't like the end number, don't do that. Tell them about it. If you don't like that, you're gonna have to renew it every 2 years. Tell them about it. For those of you who are dealers or you've been out working in the industry, where your pain points, go in and type it out. If you've got a wish list, put it in there. They've got to read them. They've got to look at them. Uh, they don't have to act on it, but this is your one opportunity to really say what you think. We've put some lobbying on you as far as doing right in your congressman and doing everything else for the drone ban. I don't think that we got a lot of response out of it, but I would love to see ag or anybody operating an enterprise drone that where 108 can benefit them. Just go in there and give them your wish list and tell them what you'd like to see or what you don't like in the system or you don't like the way it's written. It really doesn't even have to be anything about the way it's written if you want something special in there. Your voice does matter.
Yeah, I agree. And thank you, Charlie, for that breakdown. Justin asked, "Do we have any friends at USDA that are helping us work on this?" We talk with USDA regularly. The tricky part about this is an executive action, and this is the purview of the FAA, and so they're the ones that are going to. There's no cross departmental lobbying that typically happens with this. So the best advice that I can give you is reiterate what Charlie just said. Submit your comments. And if you have multiple comments, submit multiple comments. Tell them why you're doing this, your livelihood, your everything, and tell them what you want to happen. Because like you said, they have to read it. And if they read this something similar multiple times, they're probably going to do that. So that's kind of where that goes with cross departmental and even if the Secretary of Ag uh, uh, would comment, it doesn't matter. This is the rulemaking group. They have to read public comments, and there's no inside lobbying, unfortunately, on this type of thing. So the most effective people to make these comments are you. So go fill out the comment, write down your thoughts, um, and sit tight. This is not going to happen overnight. My other piece of advice is don't fall into the information trap. There's a lot of self-acclaimed experts on Facebook, and Charlie and I wouldn't tell you that we are experts on 108 either. But what we can tell you is what's written down, and this is the best route to go after that. So speak your truth, I think, when it comes to 108. Charlie, you got anything else you want to add on to that?
No, it doesn't take you much longer to read 108 if you just read the center 100 pages of it than it does to read your exemption. Uh, you can read through both of these documents quicker than you can read through your manuals. But read through it. If it's talking about delivery drones or if it's talking about survey drones, you could glance over it. But there's, 108.575 is ag, and that's the rule that's going to apply to us. Uh, there's other rules that will apply to you as far as record keeping and maintenance and training and everything else. But read through it, see what it is. I mean, this is like Alex said, this is your livelihood. Uh, so put your opinions out there and be known on what you'd like to see there. Uh, they are legitimately asking for your opinion.
Very true. Very true. So that's the spiel on 108. So um, I'm gonna I'm gonna go through some DC policy. I know a lot of you have questions and that sort of thing. So I'm gonna go through all of the policy pieces and then we'll come back for some questions. There is a lot going on in DC right now with drones. And that's a good thing. There's a lot of speculation, there's a lot of misinformation floating around the country and in the industry. And there's a big disconnect between the industry and where I was at today on Capitol Hill, which is why it's important to get your voice out. Whether you become a member of American Spray Drone Coalition, UPass, any of those groups, do something to make your voice heard with advocacy. I'm going to tell you the reality of what's going on right now. You can form your opinions and form your ideas, but this is what's going on right now. And the first and foremost, the biggest thing on a lot of people's minds is the 1709 investigation. For those of you that don't know, I'm going to kind of go back through just briefly and kind of tell you a little bit about what that is. So last year, for the 2025 NDAA, so the National Defense Authorization Act, there was a request, there was a bill proposed, the Countering CCP Drones Act of Chinese Communist Party, aimed at DJI, Autel, and Anzu, to be covered on the covered list for the FCC. So if you can't get FCC licenses, you can't fly legally. That bill was not adopted. There was a CR, so it was the directive is that a federal agency had to conduct an investigation as to the validity of national security of DJI and similar drones, and they had to do so by December 23rd of this year. If they do not, the DJI future model FCC licenses will not be approved. Pause on that and let's go simultaneously. What a lot of you have seen is the import struggles of DJI. So, due to accusations of forced labor, Customs and Border Protection has had a directive to not inspect or allow DJI drones into the country legally because of this, but because of getting that sorted out. That is not the same as the 1709 investigation, but it's collaborative on the same level, if you will. So where we're at right now, we have submitted a comment. American Spray Drone has submitted a comment. There's been lots of comments submitted talking about DJI, not just DJI, but Chinese and drones in general, and the industry stakeholder dispersal. So, what I mean by that is Chinese drones making up 90% of the spray drone industry. If you cut that 90% off, it disrupts an entire industry. I'm going to tell you something that's hard to hear. The spray drone industry is not big enough to get the attention of Congress right away. And that's hard to hear as spray drone applicators, your voice is important, but we're talking about an industry of just a few thousand versus lots of money and lots of lobbying. And the sad part is a lot of that lobbying against the Chinese drones is happening from within our own industry from other drone manufacturers. So where we stand right now is the Department of Commerce has not released an investigation or a finding, if you will. And the general consensus is they probably will not, because they will not. Once we get to Christmas Eve, December 23rd, future FCC licenses will be on the covered list. So a lot of you may know with DJI, the T100, the T70 is on not only the approved FAA drone list, is also on the FCC compliance list. What we are now hearing is first and foremost, the reason that we believe that ban will probably go through is the Hill. DJI is not getting any meetings on the Hill. They've pretty much been shut out from all the meetings, which is hard because I think all of us, the majority of us here, got our start with DJI, recognize a quality product and all of those things. But that they fell victim to the DC politics game. And that's just kind of how it is. And that's why we've seen a lot of companies, including Agri, pivoting to other options because it is illegal to get those into the country. I don't care what anyone in a Facebook group says. If they are getting DJI drones into this country, they are doing it illegally, according to Customs and Border Protection. And I will tell you after my meetings today that they are on the radar of not only the Senate, but the House and the FAA. And so it's tough. Like I said, it's a quality product. It's a great company to work with in some respects. But that's just the reality, is that they are going to go on to that covered list if that investigation does not go through by December 23rd. If they do if they do come out and they say, hey, everything is fine, DJI, you're not going to be on the covered list, then great. You still have the Customs Border Patrol issue to solve out, which DJI says they're working with. In all transparency, American Spray Drone Coalition meets with DJI's lobbyists, bi-weekly, and so these conversations are not just coming from the Hill; it's coming from both sides, and so that's something that we want to keep at the forefront of focus there. And so the question has been is, okay, for DJI now, what about the rest of the Chinese companies? And my answer to that is all Chinese drones in the next 2 years will be banned. That's my opinion. That's a very educated opinion based on conversations. But I'll tell you why here in just a second. So Brent said, what is EA Vision doing to prevent from being banned. There's not much you can do to prevent it if you're in the country of China, which is why I think we're seeing several companies, including Agri, working to bring domestic manufacturing or non-foreign adversary country manufacturing components. So I think you're going to see a lot more of that. Unfortunately for the industry, what's going to go with that? Prices are probably going to go up, and there's going to be some struggles, and that's just the political climate that we live in right now. The other side of this is that 1709 investigation implies that future FCC licenses will not be approved. It has now been brought to DJI and others' attention that the FCC director can possibly revoke current FCC licenses. So T40, T50, all of those, the FCC can revoke those licenses. The FCC has not indicated that they're going to do that, but it is. I think we need to take into consideration this administration and this Congress, and keep that at the forefront. And now is the time to speak your voice on it. The reason that trips like I'm on right now and conversations with your local senator or congressman, this is why it's important. It's not necessarily pro DJI, lobby for DJI. It's safeguarding farmer choice, and it's safeguarding the option to have these different drones. And so 1709 investigation we are going to have an answer by the end of this year. And we're going to have to deal with the realities of this. So that's kind of where I'm at with that in the FCC reality. Simultaneously, as if that wasn't enough fun, the House Resolution 4213 out of the appropriations on Homeland Security, or the Homeland Security Appropriations Act, has introduced a bill that will, and you can read the bill, I've linked it there, but prevent Customs and Border Protection from inspecting aerosol dispensing drones from foreign adversary countries. So this is where this comes in. This is not just a DJI thing. If you are a drone made in North Korea, Iran, China, or Russia, you fall into that foreign adversary piece, and if that passes the House, then it'll go before the Senate as well. To be frankly honest, we don't think that it's going to go through, and we have lobbied with the Senate to kill that in subcommittee. Not necessarily that we all love Chinese drones, but if we're going to have to make these transitions, we need time, and we need resources, and we need money. And so that kind of leads me to Senate Bill 2168, which I've also linked there. And that's from Senator Scott out of Florida. And in his Drones for America Act, he has included a provision, and I encourage you to read the whole thing because I can't do it justice, that Chinese-made drones, the importation of new models, will have a cutoff date of January 1 of 28, and parts and components January 1 of 2031. It's not great. It's not ideal. I don't like a ban of any kind because I think farmers should have choice. But what it does is it provides a timeline, and it provides a scaled approach. And so Senate Bill 2168 is something that we are in conversation this week with Senator Scott's office on. Someone who has been a huge opposer of Chinese-made drones, but is willing to have the conversation about if we don't want to cut them off immediately, how can we scale that in? So read up 2168. If you live in the state of Florida, contact Senator Scott's office and provide your opinion on that as well. And another piece that I wanted to include was NDAA fiscal year 26. This is the whole NDAA. There are going to be pieces of Chinese drone bans in there. And so that's just something that we're working with. There's a lot of bills proposed. Of course, Congress doesn't do anything quickly. And so I'm sure at the final hour, something will be introduced or not introduced. So we're monitoring NDAA fiscal year 26. So there's a lot of crazy things going on in DC right now. And where we're at in the industry, my opinion, and I think a lot of you would agree, is we lack the bridging the gap between the industry and the lawmakers, because the majority of Congress couldn't tell you what a spray drone looks like or what a spray drone is. And so that is my plea to you, my request to you is contact your local congressman, contact your local senator, and invite them to your farm. Show them your livelihood, show them your spray drones, because the more that people are educated about this, the less we are able to dictate or have this segregated into two troublemaker congressmen, meaning Senator Scott and Senator Congresswoman Stefanik. We no longer have to rely on the repercussions of heavy lobbying from other drone companies. If we educate your representative, then they have a little bit better idea of what's going on. And it doesn't matter if I talk to every single member of Congress. They want to hear from their constituents. They want to hear from you. And so that is my suggestion: is reach out to them, and see what you can accomplish. I know I threw a lot of information at you. And there may be a lot of questions. Charlie, do you have anything to add on to my policy rant there? You're muted. Go back. You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry.
Okay.
There, I'll quit talking to the screen. Uh, Justin's comment about neither can the FAA. The point is, we've seen it from audits that I've been through, or Agri-Spray's been through, or a customer's been through. When the FAA comes to visit you, whether it's your local flight standards district office, or it's Washington people coming out, or it's your congressman, they do not understand what these drones can do. Yeah, it's a 275-pound drone, but it flies for 7 to 10 minutes, and then it comes back for a battery or a liquid. It's not flying across town. They have a whole different concept of what in their mind these drones do. Uh, and it's really about educating the FAA when they come to visit you, or if you can get your congressman to come visit, you out applying. I can tell you, I don't think the two FAA employees that are traveling the country doing audits have yet to see a drone working in the field. And that's been a recommendation that we've made to the FAA as they're writing rules, you know, or even at the Congress level, is get an advisory board together of operators that can help educate you either at the FAA level or at the political level, so that they can understand what they're dealing with. Because it's it's mind-boggling how easy it is for a congressman to see. And a congressman has, depending on how big their district is, between 200,000 and 7 million people in their district. And if they can get votes by saying that they're against Chinese drones, are they really worried about the 50 ag operators that are in there that are affecting drones? We need to see this grassroots come all the way up through surveying and box drones and everything else. And there's a lot more advocacy going on this year than there's ever been. But write your congressman and make your comments known on this. DJI got put up in as a defense contracting company that was funded by China. DJI has never been a company that has produced a weapon, but since it's a communist country funded company, that's how it ended up on the list. Airbus is a French company that is very much funded by the French government, but it's not on a defense contractors list because it's not a communist country. It's just welcome to how it works. And I agree with Alex that timelines are everything, and we as a country need to take this industry back. But it's going to take some time, and it's going to start off being assemble drones in the U.S. This country is not capable right now of producing the chipsets and the hardware that is going to come from another country, whether it comes out of China or whether it comes out of South Korea or Taiwan or wherever. I mean, we see that in the automobile industry, now for almost 9 or 10 years, and that's been a government funded project that still is not up and running. And I think they put $13 billion into a chip factory in Ohio that's still not completed. It's not going to happen overnight, and that's why you hope the timelines are long enough that we as an industry can evolve to get ahead of it.
Yep, I agree, and that's where I make my selfish, or not really selfish, but my plea to you. Um, get get your voice heard. Join American Spray Drone Coalition. Join UPass. Join these groups that are trying to fight for you in Washington. Um, I think that a lot of people don't care until it directly affects them. Well, now's the time, and it's directly affecting you. And it's the time to make your voice heard. It should not matter that we're a smaller industry. If you have a lot of really good voices from one industry, you're going to start to be heard. So that's my recommendation. AmericanSprayDroneCoalition.com and UPass. Go join up and start to push those grassroots efforts. So I think that's a big piece of what we need to do as an industry is not focus on our differences and focus on the petty back and forth. It's to come together and focus on how we can change it together. So that's my philosophical rant to you on that one. So the other piece I didn't put on the slide, but I did want to mention, I have a really exciting meeting tomorrow with the EPA in the White House. The MAHA, so the America Healthy Again Act that is being put together has a provision for precision agriculture and spray drones. So the shocker, the Trump administration knows nothing about spray drones. So we are going to help educate them and talk about the not only the viability but the benefits in agriculture. So stay tuned on that. There's some pretty exciting stuff that I think is going to come as a positive effect out of that. So, okay. Anybody
We
have?
don't talk a lot about it, but state pesticide, we since it's really up to the user to get that license, you see how much is going on right now with glyphosate or states that want to ban every kind of pesticide, rules that are changing. Missouri adopted aerial in 2025. So if you're renewing in Missouri on the pesticide license, you didn't have to have aerial before, but you will at your next renewal. We really don't talk a lot about state pesticide or uh, uh, the chemical side of the house, but don't we heard it at the drone sprayer user conference last year. You all as users out there doing it need to stay at the grassroots level of promoting new chemicals and new labeling and not letting glyphosate get railroaded out because I mean this would be just as bad as if you can't eradicate rodents anymore. California's tried this and now they're overrun with rodents. There's a reason that these chemicals are needed and have value. Uh, Everything can't go organic and be like it was in 1890, or we're all just going to run around in horse and buggies again. Uh, so you got to fight for your industry.
I agree. Totally agree. All right. So questions. If you click on that Q&A button, you could type a question into us. We will answer any and all questions that you have. And this is also my plea. If you are one of our regulatory regulations package customers and you have questions, get a hold of us if you feel like you haven't been heard or you got some additional questions. We don't mind. Send us an email, or whatever. But we'll open it up to all questions here. So type those questions into the box there. Click the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and it'll come over to us, and we'll openly answer them as much as we can. So see what we got here.
Generically, right now, we can't file an exemption without a registered drone and a pilot's license. So those are things that you need to do prior to the exemption. Drone registration's taken 45 to 60 days if everything works good. I guarantee you there's somebody on here that's had a 6 to 9 month registration or a 6 to 9 month exemption. Last year at this time we would see registrations in 8 to 15 days. Now they're 45 to 60. Last year at this time, or last year mid-July, we were seeing exemptions in 28 to 35 days, which we're back to right now. But we're also seeing exemptions that were over 180 days. Uh, the FAA says that they have 128 days or 120 days to do an exemption, so they're going to stick to that timeline. Uh, they're doing much better than that. But as soon as we tell you that you're going to get your exemption in 35 days, it's going to go back to 120. So the big thing there is to stay in touch and keep pushing it. All of these offices are silos of the FAA. Registrations in Oklahoma City, exemption groups out of DC, the 137 groups kind of scattered all over the country, but I think they're DC based. They don't talk to each other. They all ask for similar data. So we'll ask you to fill out forms, uh, and you're like, I already did this, and it's like it's for a different group this time. Uh, so
Yeah,
just
great.
stick with it. If you don't feel that you understand the process, just keep asking us. We've got different forms that we can get you on how it works. Just work on that one.
All right, we're getting some awesome questions. I'll start going through. Charlie, you can jump in when you want. So Brent, will EA Vision come out with a USA drone that meets all future legal requirements? What I will tell you, I'll put my legal hat on, is I believe there is going to be some really good options in the very near future. EA Vision will not be the company that brings that really good option. So I will leave that to your suspense or to your wonder, but I will tell you that AgroSpray is working very aggressively right now to bring US options at a good price point. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say on that. But to answer your question, yes, and there's a lot of work being done on the back end to kind of get on all of that. Troy, dealers are stating T100s are coming in soon. Are you saying any of those coming in are illegal? What I will tell you is what I do know is UFLPA, the Forced Labor Act, is restricting and strictly prohibiting Customs and Border Protection from inspecting and importing DJI drones. If a dealer is getting a T100 in, I would have a question of how they got that in, and if it has the appropriate paperwork. Different precincts of the Customs and Border Protection operate differently. But what we know is from DJI, they have said that they cannot get drones into the country. So I'm not saying that all of them are illegal. I'm not making any accusations against anybody. But I would, as a customer, potential customer, I would question, just have a couple of follow-up questions with that. So I would also say coming in soon, I would wonder the timeline of that, what the expedited manner of that is. So that's all. That's what I'll say on that one. I would just ask follow-up questions as a customer.
We're
Uh,
all hoping to see containers of them come in.
yeah, I think
You know,
the more drones and the more diverse, the better for the industry. We know that quality products and multiple options drive price point down. So if that happens, then full steam ahead, guys.
we've seen how hard it was this summer to get parts, T40 parts, T50 parts, or T60s, or sorry, T50s in the box. I foresee the 100 being the same way. You might see some get through, but I don't know that you can do it at scale that everybody wants it. Uh, I think if that's the case, then everybody would be on board. I hope they do, and I hope that they can get the parts and everything to support it. It's time will tell.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm going to let Charlie answer.
registering
Yeah.
registering a drone, if you've reserved an in number, reserving an in number is a $10 fee to reserve a vanity number or a number that you pick out of an available number that you have. The key there is if you're going to reserve a number, reserve it under the same name that you're going to register it under, because if not, it's more paperwork to relinquish it. If Alex Ryan reserves the number, but Ryan Spray Drone wants to use the number, there needs to be a letter from Alex Ryan relinquishing it to the company. It becomes more work. It doesn't slow you down. It just needs to go in when you register the drone. Uh, and then putting that number on just needs to have something in the file letter saying that you reserved a number and that you would like to use that number. It doesn't speed the process up. It doesn't slow the process down. Uh, you'll know what your number is, but it's still previously unregistered. And then until it's in the FAA system where you can search it, it's not registered. So I don't know that it helps or hurts. If you'd like to have your own in number, you can reserve. They're good for a year for $10, and you still have to pay the $5 to register it. We do the majority of ours as next available, which means they pick the in number because it's not like you're saying the in number on the radio or it's on the side of your aircraft. It's on your drone, usually with black magic marker or a label maker, and barely anybody even knows what their in number is. So they just take what they can get. It's up to you, though. I mean, if you want to reserve in numbers, that's fine. Just have it done. We reserved a couple of numbers almost a month ago, and they still don't show up as Agri sprays. Uh, I talked to him the other day because I talked to him 2 or 3 times a week on the phone. And she's like, "Yeah, I see your thing. It'll probably be processed in another 2 to 3 weeks." So it's taken about 45 days for it to even show up on the registry that Agri Spray has that in number reserved. I can still use it, and we've asked to do that. I just wanted to make sure that they even got my request because they barely even give you a receipt when you reserve an in number.
Yeah, very good. Greg Thomas. Should new customers start their exemption, their 137 now for their businesses, or wait? I assume do it now since there isn't a timeline on 108. Well, I will tell them as soon as you can get a registered aircraft and a remote pilot certificate, start the process. We've all been there where you wait, and maybe you think, oh, I'll start it after harvest or I'll start it here. Start it as soon as you can. And I would encourage customers to start that exemption. Don't even think about 108. There's too many unknowns, there's too many pieces, and that thing's going to get wordsmithed up and down, left and right. The focus on what we know is the process now, so that we can get customers through. Just
108 in the Class 3 medical. The last two versions of the 44807 exemption have not had the medical requirement in it for daytime. It was only in there for night. 108 only talks about medically fit for flight. So it talks about medical conditions in 108-320. I don't think 108-320 is very big. It just says that if you have any known deficiencies, you shouldn't fly. So there is no medical requirement in 108, along with the last two exemptions. So unless you're flying at night, so that's a good piece.
Ryan, my 44807 is coming up to get renewed. Is it time to make a switch from registered as an individual to commercial, or does it matter when I do it? I'd say now's a great time. We need to make sure that the aircraft, we make it all line up and match up. But now's the time if you want to move that over to a company. Say you started as an individual, want to move it to a company, now's a great time to do that. And probably what I would end up doing is just filing a new petition as the company. So we can do a name change and do that sort of thing. But yeah, to answer your question, yes, now's a good time.
Move the drone over, the $5 to transfer it from the individual to the company, apply for the change of the exemption. The FAA will not issue the 137 change until the exemption's in the new name. So it's kind of got to go in order.
Yeah. Is there a way to do a dummy audit to see where records, paperwork, and our procedures lacking? Go to UPass's website. Michelle did a really good write-up on how to go through an audit. And if you have other questions, call us, Charlie and I. Charlie even more than me. We've both gone through audits. We'll walk you through it. Pete Van Ness, I think you're still on here. We walked him through and he passed beautifully. So
Friday before last, so we have some current data. It's kind of hard to put a template together because even with what Pete gave us from his audit's a little different than what we thought. They're evolving as they learn because really those two are out learning So there's a couple new things that we'd not heard of that Pete and I talked a couple times on the phone, and that was really what we did to prep. Pete did a great job of just reviewing all his stuff. And I think he had one thing that they wanted to see additional information on. And, it was, I think, less than 2.5 hours at his location. And he's in the middle of nowhere on the West Coast. So don't think that if you're out in the middle of nowhere that they're not going to show up. I think they were at his house at 8:30 in the morning. Uh, Good on him on a Friday even. Uh, but call us if you know. But the best thing you can do to prepare for an audit is know your manual, know your exemption, download the manual for the drone you're flying and read it. Most of them don't come with a manual. You have to download it to get it. They're going to ask maintenance procedures. DJI has a page and a half about maintenance procedures. There was a little more in the T50 than there was in the T40. Uh, this guy wants to see reams of maintenance information, and you're like, there's only a page and a half in the manufacturer's manual. This is all I know, and that is a good enough answer. But if you've never seen it before, he'll educate you on it, but you'd rather educate him on it. So,
Agree.
but if you want to talk to people that have done it, that I've personally been through an audit with my 137. Alex has been through an audit with Agri. I can give you two or three other people who've done it. They really haven't picked on a ton of people yet, but they're out there, and that's what they've been tasked to do is travel the country and start talking to people. If you know they're coming, give us a call. We'll be glad to either talk you through the best we can, or get you with who we can find that have done it recently. Uh, and we're not cheating. We're just trying to get you to be most prepared for it.
Agree. Davis, so the FCC can revoke current approvals or approve drones like the T-40s. Did I hear that correctly? Yes, that's completely up to the director of the FCC. And it's been indicated to us by DJI's lobbyists and a couple other folks that that is an option. That would be a very drastic and a very industry-ending or industry-damaging option, I should say. But the FCC does have the power to do that. And given this administration, I would say probably will do that. That's not to scare you. That's not to cause panic, but that's something to keep an eye on, and another reason to advocate, because that would cause a lot of hurt. Greg, I'll come back to you, Greg. Ryan, seems like everybody is jumping ship and selling DJI drones on marketplace. Is it a gamble keeping a DJI drone and not getting rid of it while they're still worth, or keeping it till it's not worth it? I think that's a deep economic question, and a lot of what ifs involved. What I'll tell you is it's not happening. A ban is not happening tonight, and it is not happening next week. You have to make the decision on what is best for you. And all of this is speculation in some ways. Congress operates on speculation. They operate on well, this could happen and this could happen. Obviously, we prepare for the worst, but what my advice to you is not only to get involved, but to just do what makes sense for your business. And if operating T-40s makes sense to you, then do it. If selling that T-40 makes sense to you, then do it. I know there's a lot of scary things going on right now, and there's a lot of money tied up in these things. And so that would be my advice to you, is to go that route. Will a Chinese drone ban will go through in our lifetime? That's a bad term. In near future. That's a known thing, but it's not happening tomorrow, and we don't know if those current FCC licenses are going to be revoked. So that's kind of where we're at. Charlie, you got something to add to that one?
I don't spend all my time on the Hill. I think that other than executive orders, this political environment doesn't happen overnight. I think that it's great that they're using timelines. So I think that you've got, rest of this year, which, we're in cover crop and other things. And then next year, I think you'll still be able to do it. I think if it got to be FCC revoking, it's going to be because the industry is not responding fast enough to make other things happen. and Congress is going to say you're not doing anything, we're going to take it. I don't see that happening this year or next. But we sat here and made the same comment last year about this time about saying, this drone ban's not going to happen. So it has evolved and it didn't die on the vine, and who knows what's going to happen. Executive order is a pretty sweeping pin. This Congress has surprised us every now and then, but they're also, they got a lot of recess and they got a lot of other things that they get distracted by. So, like Alex said, you got to do what's right for your business. And I would operate that drone heavily uh, until you can't, you know. Uh, I would be surprised if they revoke current FCC licenses, but this current administration has surprised me so far.
That is an understatement. Justin, I'll come back to yours. Greg, if we file our renewal with you, will that come with the latest exemption package? So the single person operator medical exemption 9, et cetera. Yeah. So all new exemptions since what's the date, Charlie? What's the newest?
December 4th,
December
December 4th, I think.
the 47 conditions and limitations.
48 now.
48 conditions and limitations. So to answer your question, yes, those new ones would come. They're all summary grant. It's not like we asked for this. It's not a la carte. We don't ask for no visual observer, but we don't want night. It's all summary grant. So yes, you would get the most current exemption.
Latest and greatest is up to 3 drones with 1 PIC, depending on what drone you're operating and how you can do it. Uh, Visual observer is as uh, as utilized, so it's not required. The medical is only required if you're operating at night, and the 48 conditions and limitations brought the speed up to 40 miles an hour from 30 miles an hour. So we got the ability to operate some of the newer drones at the speeds that they have are capable of. That's where 108 is going to shine, is that we're going to get it's going to be up to the manufacturer on how it's certified to do it, and so we won't be playing this exemption game when we get a drone that can go 52 miles an hour and our exemption says we can only go 40. I mean, we saw that with the fly cart. We all had 30 mile an hour exemptions, but the fly cart would do 45 or whatever it was, and you're like, am I breaking the law? Am I speeding? Those kind of things.
Yeah.
But yes, you'll get the newest. We apply for them that way, so you do get the newest. Technically, they'll tell you if you talk to the exemption group that you can get renewed with your old one. I don't think I've seen one. Everybody's based on the date you applied for. You're getting whatever's the latest and greatest at the time.
Yes. Justin, frankly, I'm concerned about supporting PACs within an industry that is split and segmented into that. Now, there seem to be a few domestic players that stand to benefit from a Chinese drone ban. That leaves a majority of operators with an inoperable investment. I agree with you. I think one of the industry's biggest flaw is its separation. Um, and I think that that's where people need to come to the table. There have been several groups formed, bringing those, regardless of brand, bringing those people to the table. But for example, American Spray Drone Coalition is formed of 5 different branded distributors. But who are we working against? People in our own industry. We're working against a company out of Texas and a company out of wherever the other one's out of. And they're putting a lot of money into lobbying. And so that's kind of where we have to fight back with truth. And to be honest, when I'm lobbying on the Hill, I'm not as much thinking about a certain brand of drone. I'm thinking about the industry and the detrimental path that it would go down if we were to single out specific brands. So that's why you get involved. Join being that voice. And if you don't want to join one of those coalitions, do it yourself. Like contact your congressman, go through different channels. We have had wonderful conversations with American Farm Bureau and other groups like that, and they take directives from the states and build those policy books. And so run it up those ways. But it's a nice phone call or an email to your congressman is a big way that you can make a difference, I think.
The drone ban really started at the enterprise level, meaning the Mavics and the the law enforcement or fire department or emergency services level, and trying to get those drones not to where they could use government money for a Chinese drone. And it's evolved. I mean, Alex talked about the bill that's out there that talks about, spray drones. That's not where this intent of drone bans started, but Congress keeps turning the refocusing on whatever they can do to keep this in the news and to make it a thing. This is McCarthyism at its best, in my mind, of picking on a drone industry that's not going to affect the most of their constituents so that they can get the vote by being anti-Chinese, in my mind. This really doesn't have anything to do about DJI having a history of collecting data. I mean, DJI has made it pretty much you do what you want to with the drone. They took all the geofencing out of it. They took all the cloud out of it. They were like, do what you want with this drone. We don't care about the data. You know, uh, I mean, I see it more at the EA level of how many million acres we've sprayed already this year. Somebody's collecting that data. We're doing it ourselves so that we can show how dependable the drone's been. But when we're putting out statistics like that, that's collected data. You know, whether it's a Chinese drone or not. I don't care right now who's making what drone or who's producing it or saying that it's coming from. Where are those parts coming from? It's assembled in America. It's not made in America. Find me a factory in the US that's winding motors, electric brushless motors for a drone. They're coming from Hobby Wing. They're coming from somewhere in Southeast Asia. Uh, and there's probably a plant doing it, but those motors are also costing 10 to 50 times what it would be. And that's what it's going to end up costing us, is a lot of money to get a US, first thing we're going to see is a US produced drone, meaning shipped all the parts in separately, and it'll be assembled. We already see that in a couple of different companies that have fought the Made in America versus Assembled in America logo. Uh, and that's where you're going to see the next round uh, of Chinese drones. They're just going to be assembled in America and say US. The thing is getting them on the list and getting them to where they're not scrutinized by the government as an entity from the Southeast Asia.
Yep, I agree. Absolutely agree. So, all right. Well, if there's no more questions, if there's other things oh man, I spoke too soon. During your lobbying, can you ask for them to exempt agriculture drones from the foreign drone ban? Yeah, that's something that's been a big ask, and it's been a big contingency. But uh, it does, unfortunately, the ban does not dictate use case. It dictates country of origin. And so that was kind of the shoot down. But the problem I have with House Bill 4213 is because it says aerosol dispensing drones from foreign adversary companies. So that's us. So that's the I think a lot of people just think there's one drone ban in DC, and that's the problem, where we've got six different things that are playing against us right now. And so that's kind of where the cookie's crumbling on that one. So not a question. Thank you for taking your time to do this, keeping us informed. Ryan, that's a great segue into my ending here. If you've had a question, you come up. If you are laying in bed tonight and you just happen to think of Charlie and I's voices, and it draws a question to mind, reach out to us. If it's about regulatory, we're happy to answer. If you just want to call me and chat about policy, my email's on the screen. And most of you have my number anyway. The conversations keeping going is what's really important to this. And after my meeting with the White House and EPA tomorrow, I think we're going to have even more answers. So there's a lot of crazy things going on. And so I'll use that to thank each and every one of you for spending your Wednesday evening with us tonight. Charlie, you got anything to add before we close this thing up?
Be safe out there. Know your exemption, know your manual. Uh, Operate within the guidelines of that, and you know, we saw a pretty safe season this year, and we appreciate all the people that are out there, and know that there's people on your side, whether it's FAA or in the politics side, and we're working for you.
Yeah, we absolutely are. And we're here for you. I don't care if you bought a EA, a DJI, an XAG, a Vector. I don't care what you bought. If you have questions and you want to get involved, reach out to us. And we'll make a lot of change together. So, thanks so much, everybody. Have a good rest of your evening. This recording will be available for reference. And everybody have a good evening. Thanks.